Good morning, students. Today I am going to tell you about the drugs affecting the respiratory system. I am myself Dr. Ghulam Mahmood Loan, Pharmacology, Dr. R.K. GMCH, Hamirpur, Himachal Pradesh. The main points I am going to tell you about the antihistamines, decongestants, antitussives, and expectorants. Because I am dividing this lecture into two halves. This is the first half, and the second half will be about the bronchodilators as such, the drugs. That will be a big chunk of IMC classification. But here I am telling you that this classification you have to have from the party which has been envisaged and which has been, we have to talk about the pharyngeal demulcents, lozenges, syrups, glycerine, liqueurs, and then expectorants can be divided into two groups like secretion enhancers and mucolytics. Secretion enhancers, we have potassium citrate, potassium iodide, guaifenesin, tolubalsam, and Vasaca. And the mucolytics, we have a promethazine, ambroxol, acetylcysteine. This acetylcysteine is antidote for the paracetamol poisoning also. And then we have other, antitussives. Antitussives can be divided into three groups: opioids, non-opioids, and antihistamines. Opioids, we have codeine, ethyl morphine, and folcodone. Non-opioids, we have nascopine, dextromethorphan, and chlorpheniramine. Only you remember nascopine and dextromethorphan. And antihistamines, we have chlorpheniramine, diphenhydramine, promethazine. That we can use a promethazine in the, young ones in the pediatrics for the, sedation if you have to do any investigation. And then we have adjuvant antiasthmatics. We have bronchodilators, salbutamol, terbutaline, guaifenesin, and this is what is written in the book of pharmacology, that is D.K. Tripathi. Now I am starting this understanding the common cold. Actually, this common cold most caused by viral infection, rhinovirus or influenza virus, that we call the flu. Virus invades tissue mucosa of upper respiratory tract, causing upper respiratory infection, URI. Excessive mucus production results from the inflammatory response to this invasion. Fluid drips down the pharynx into the esophagus and lower respiratory tract, causing cold symptoms, sore throat, coughing, upset stomach. Now, irritation of the nasal mucosa often triggers the sneeze reflex. We can really sneeze it, like it is common in the winter months. Mucosal irritation also causes release of the several inflammatory and vasoactive substances, dilated small blood vessels in the nasal sinuses and causing nasal congestion. Now, treatment of the common cold involves the combined use of the antihistamine, nasal decongestants, antitussives, and expectorants. Treatment is symptomatic only, not curative, because the common cold can be of viral also. Symptomatic treatment does not eliminate the causative pathogen, that you know. So difficult to identify whether cause is viral or bacterial. Treatment is empiric therapy, treating the most likely cause. Antivirals and antibiotics may be used, but viral or bacterial cause may not be easily identifiable. So antihistamines, we have drugs that directly compete with a histamine or specific receptor. There are two types of receptors, two histaminic receptors are there, H1 histamine and H2 histamine. So H1 histamine is of bronchus nature and H2 histamine is at the parietal cells, that we have ranitidine, famotidine, cimetidine, and nizotidine, that is H2. So H2 blockers or H2 antagonists used to reduce gastric acid in PUD. Examples are cimetidine, Tagamet, or ranitidine, or famotidine. H1 antagonists are commonly referred to as antihistamines. Antihistamines have several effects: antihistaminic, anticholinergic, and sedatives. So once you give the antihistamine H1, it can be antihistaminic. We use in anaphylactic shock also, but it is mildly used. And anticholinergic, there is, secretion is lessened, and there is sedative. That's why I have told you it can be used in the, neonates, in the pediatric sub group for the investigation, like for EEG, like for X-ray chest, X-ray this thing. We need a small procedure. Antihistamine mechanism of action is block action of the histamine at the receptor site, compete with histamine or binding at unoccupied receptors, cannot push histamine off the receptor if already bound. That you have to remember. Though mechanism of action more effective in preventing the actions of the histamine rather than reversing them. So it can prevent. Should be given early in treatment before all the histamine binds to the receptors. Histamine versus antihistamine effect. Cardiovascular, we have small blood vessels. Histamine effect, we have dilation and increased permeability. Dilation and increased permeability, allowing substances to leak into tissues. Antihistamine effect, we have prevent dilation of blood vessels, prevent increasing permeability. Smooth muscle on exocrine gland, histamine effects. Stimulate salivary, gastric, lacrimal, and bronchial secretions. Antihistamine effect, we have it prevents salivary, gastric, lacrimal, and bronchial secretion. Now, immune system, release of the substances commonly associated with allergic reactions. Histamine effect, mast cells release histamine and other substances, reducing in allergic reactions. Antihistamine effect binds to histamine receptors, thus preventing histamine from causing a response. Antihistamine other effects, we have second, it blocks the capillary permeability, wheal and flare formation, itching. Anticholinergic effect, as you know, it is a drying effect that reduces nasal, salivary, and lacrimal gland secretion. That is running nose, tearing, and itching eyes. Sedative effect, we have some antihistamines cause drowsiness. So that is why it is not used by those who are driving, who use the mechanical, equipments. So that is that you have to take the care. Management. So antihistamine therapeutic use, we have management, how we manage. Nasal allergies, seasonal or perennial allergic, rhinitis, hay fever. Allergic reactions. We can also use it in, sleep disorders. Antihistamine therapeutic use also used to relieve symptoms associated with the common cold, sneezing, running nose, palliative treatment, not curative. Antihistamine, we use, what are the side effects? Anticholinergic, that I have told you, dry effects. Most common are dry mouth, difficulty urinating, constipation, changes in vision, drowsiness, mild drowsiness to deep sleep. Antihistamines, two types. We have traditional or non-sedating, peripherally acting. Antihistamine traditional. These are the older ones, work both peripherally and centrally, have anticholinergic effect, making them more effective than non-sedating agents in some cases. Examples are diphenhydramine, that is Benadryl, chlorpheniramine, also the second one. Now antihistamine, non-sedating, peripherally acting. They were developed to eliminate unwanted side effects, mainly sedation. Work peripherally to block the actions of the histamine, thus fewer CNS side effects. Longer duration of action, increase compliance. Examples are fexofenadine and loratadine. So these two are long acting. Now there is a nursing implications, antihistamines. Instruct patients to report excessive sedation, confusion or hypotension. You have to tell the patient. Avoid driving, that I have already told, or operating heavy machinery, and do not consume alcohol or other CNS depressants. Do not take these medications with other prescribed or OTC medication without checking with prescriber, because they have got a lot of, side effects, lot of adverse drug reactions even. So you have to, the combination best is known to the prescriber. So you have to take the care over here, because they also have some, side effects or contraindications the patients cannot be prescribed for. Best tolerated when taken with meals, because at that time it reduces GI upset. If dry mouth occurs, teach patients to perform frequent mouth care. Chew gum or suck on hard candy, preferably sugarless, to ease discomfort. Monitor for intended therapeutic effects. Nasal congestion, excessive nasal secretion, inflammation and swollen nasal mucosa. Primary cause because of the allergies, upper respiratory infection, that is common cold. Decongestant. Two main types are used here: adrenergic, largest group, and corticosteroids. They also are used for the decongestants. Decongestant, two dosage forms. We can give the decongestants orally. We can give the decongestants in the inhaled, topically applied to the nasal membrane, because we can use as Otrivin drops or like nasal drops. Oral decongestants, prolonged decongestant effects but delayed onset. That means once it is administered, it is a prolonged effect. The onset of action and duration of action is delayed. It is not that once you use the drug there will be effect. No, you have to wait. Effect less potent than topical, because it is less potent than topical. No rebound congestion. Exclusively adrenergic. Examples we have phenylephrine. Phenylephrine is alpha-1 agonist also. And we have pseudoephedrine. So there are two examples about the oral decongestants. So we have not to take the tyramine under these circumstances, or alpha blockers is not used because there is a drug-drug interaction, and during this the blood pressure go high. So you have to take the care. Topical nasal decongestants, both adrenergic and steroids, prompt onset, potent, sustained use over several days causes rebound congestion, making the condition worse. And there is one more effect here. You have to take the care that there is a rebound. Why? You have to use these types of drugs for some time, for 5 days, because the receptors are upregulated, and you have to have that's why there is a rebound congestion, making the condition worse sometimes. Because adrenergic and we have to use with steroids that can give a good response, but so far as nasal decongestants are concerned, there is a rebound effect. So adrenergic, we have ephedrine, we have oxymetazoline, and we have nefazoline, we have phenylephrine. These are all alpha-1 agonists. and these are adrenergic. Intranasal steroids, we have beclomethasone, dipropionate, and flinosolide. These are the intranasal. Once these drops are being kept in the, nasal, cavity. Nasal decongestion mechanism of action, how they act. Site of action, blood vessels surrounding, and they cause, they go to the nasal cyanosis. Adrenergic, constrict small blood vessels. This is the mechanism. They constrict small vessels that supply upper respiratory structures. As a result, these tissues shrink. Once they shrink, and nasal secretion in the swollen mucous membranes are better able to drain. So nasal stiffness is relieved. So this is the mechanism of action of these blood vessels, how they act, nasal decongestants, that you should know, because alpha blockers, they are, decongestants we call it, and they constrict the vessels, and when the constriction is taking place, they shrink, and nasal secretion in the swollen mucous membranes are better able to drain. So nasal stiffness is relieved. This is the mechanism of action. You have to have this knowledge. And site of action is blood vessels surrounding, nasal cyanosis. Nasal steroids, anti-inflammatory effect. So there is inflammation is regressed. Work to turn off the immune system cells. So they are going to, turn off the immune system cells involved in the inflammatory response. Decreased inflammation results in decreased congestion, nasal stiffness is relieved. So this is nasal decongestant, how it works. Now drug effects, nasal decongestant. They shrink engorged nasal mucous membrane, relieve nasal stuffiness. So nasal decongestant, what is its therapeutic use? Relief of nasal congestion associated with acute or chronic rhinitis, when there is a running nose, when there is a common cold, when there is a sinusitis, when there is a hay fever, when there are other allergies, we can use it. May also be used to reduce swelling of the nasal passage and facilitate visualization of the nasal pharyngeal membranes before surgery or diagnostic procedures. So once you have to do any surgery, you can also visualize the anatomic position of nasal and pharyngeal membranes. So before surgery, for diagnostic purposes also. So drug is not used only for the therapeutic and prophylactic, but we have to use it for the diagnostic procedures and for the surgery also. That is other, advantage of these drugs. Now nasal decongestion side effects. What are the side effects? I have already told. Adrenergics, we have nervousness, and steroids, we have local mucosal dryness and irritation. Adrenergics, we have insomnia, we have palpitations, we have tremors because of the systemic effects due to adrenergic stimulation of the heart, blood vessels, and also CNS. These are the side effects. And what are the nursing implications? Nasal decongestants. Decongestants may cause hypertension, that I have already told. It causes palpitation and CNS stimulation. Avoid in patients with these conditions. So a person, if it is hypertension, you have to tell the patient, or you are hypertensive, and then you have not. Or is there any CNS problem? So because hypertension, palpitation, and CNS effect is the side effect of these drugs. Assess for drug allergies. So you have to have drug allergy is also implicated by these nasal decongestants. Nursing application decongestants, where patients should avoid caffeine and caffeine containing products. Why? Report of fever, cough, or other symptoms lasting longer than a week. If it ensues for a longer, then we have other options to rule out. Monitor our intended therapeutic effect, because we have to monitor The therapeutic effect is very important. We have to monitor it and we have to really rule out any other cause. Now I am talking about the antitussives. Cough physiology. Respiratory secretion and foreign objects are naturally removed by the cough reflex. So cough is very important. It is a cough reflex is very important. Respiratory secretion is coming out, foreign objects are coming out. This is a response, good response, and this interplays, and that we call as a cough reflex. It induces coughing and expectoration. So whatever the sputum is inside, it comes out. Initiated by irritation of sensory receptors in the respiratory tract, because it is innervated by the cholinergic and adrenergic. This cough, respiratory tract. So it is initiated by irritation of sensory receptors in the respiratory tract. So the basic types of the cough is productive cough. If there is a congestion, removes excessive secretion. If it is a non-productive cough, there is a dry cough. So there is a productive cough, there is a non-productive cough. So productive cough is non-congested, removes excessive, it is not congestion. Non-productive cough is because of the dry cough. Coughing. Most of the time, coughing is beneficial, removes excessive secretion. This is but nature. And then removes potentially harmful foreign substances. In some situations, coughing can be harmful, such as after hernia repair surgery. This is very important, coughing. So coughing have plus points, advantageous points, because in hernia repair it helps. Now antitussives. What are antitussives? Drugs used to stop or reduce coughing. That I have told in the classification also. Opioids and non-opioids are there, or we call it narcotic and non-narcotic, used only for non-productive coughs. So opioid or non-opioid antitussives, that we call it the narcotics or morphine related, and non-narcotics, their use is only for non-productive cough. We cannot use it for the productive cough. So opioids, how they act? Suppress the cough reflex by direct acting on the cough center in the medulla. We have examples: codeine, Robitussin AC, dimetane DC, hydrocodone. So codeine and hydrocodone are the two examples that belong to the opioids. Now non-opioids suppress the cough reflex by numbing the stretch receptors. So there are types of receptors, stretch receptors. There are mechanoreceptors. There are smell receptors, mechanoreceptors, and in respiratory tract, and preventing the cough reflex from being stimulated. So non-opioids, they suppress the cough reflex by numbing the stretch receptors in the respiratory tract and preventing the cough reflex from being stimulated. Examples we have benzonatate, or we have dextromethorphan. So these are the two drugs you have to remember: benzonatate or dextromethorphan. These are the non-opioids. So examples in the opioids we have two, in the non-opioids we have two here. Antitussive therapeutic use we have used to stop the cough reflex when the cough is non-productive and harmful. So our main aim is we have to stop cough reflex when the cough is non-productive and harmful. So this is one of the advantages. Now antitussive side effects, what is benzonate? Its side effect is dizziness, headache, sedation. Dextromethorphan, we have dizziness, drowsiness, and nausea. And opioids, as you know, they are acting centrally. There is a sedation, there is a nausea, there is a vomiting, there is a light-headedness and constipation. Opioids, wherever you give, constipation is there. That is why I am enumerating the example of loperamide. It is also opioid, and we give for the constipation. So opioid groups are given in the constipations also. Now it produces the constipation also. Nursing applications or antidiarrheal, we can say. Nursing implications, antitussives. Perform respiratory and cough assessment. We have to assess both respiratory and cough, and assess for the allergies. We have to see if there is an option of allergy. Instruct patients to avoid driving or operating heavy equipments due to possible sedation, drowsiness, or dizziness. If taking chewable tablets or lozenges, do not drink liquids for 30 to 35 minutes afterwards. So we have, after taking the drug, we have not to drink liquids 30 to 35 minutes till it clears, because once you take the liquid, there is a contact mechanism. There should be a contact of the drug with the receptors which are prevalent there. Once you drink something, they will not adhere on the receptors, because the receptor there should be affinity. Now report any of the following symptoms to the caregiver, yani nursing, if the patient is, or to the doctor. Cough that lasts more than a week. So there is something reason why the cough is there, why it has lasted for more than a week. A persistent headache, fever, or rash. So we have to report. If it is a simple thing, we are taking these antitussives or we are taking these expectorants, and we have to have education, we have to knowledge why. If it is persistent, then there is another reason. Antitussive agents are for non-productive coughs also. So monitor for intended therapeutic use. We have to monitor, because non-productive coughs are also there. We have to monitor the therapeutic uses. Expectorants. So expectorants, drugs that aid in the expectoration, removal of the mucus, this is called the expectorants. Reduce the viscosity of the secretion. So if there is a secretion, it reduces the viscosity and comes out. It dissolves it or disintegrate and thin secretion. So this is the expectorant that aid in expectoration, removal of the mucus. They reduce the viscosity of the secretion and they disintegrate and thin secretion. So expectorant mechanism of action is direct stimulation or reflex stimulation. So we have to, final result is thinner mucus that is easier to remove. This is the final. The mucus should come out. It should become thinner so that it can be expelled out easily. We can remove it. So what is the mechanism of action? Direct stimulation. The secretory glands are stimulated directly to increase their production of respiratory tract fluids. So what are the different, expectorants, the drugs? It is in combination. It is terpene hydrate, iodine containing products such as the iodinated glycerol and potassium iodide. Direct and indirect stimulation is there. So these are some examples where expectorant drugs are containing. What is this mechanism of action? It is a reflex stimulation. Agents cause irritation of the GI tract. So once it causes the GI tract irritation, so loosening and thinning of the respiratory tract, it loosens and makes the thin, this secretion occur in response to this irritation. So this irritation brings about loosening and thinning of respiratory tract. Examples are guaifenesin, guaifenesin, syrup of ipecac. So these are the two, examples where these expectorants act like that. Now the expectorants drug effects are by loosening and thinning sputum and bronchial secretion. The tendency to cough is indirectly diminished. So indirectly they diminish. So this is the direct effect. Now expectorant common side effects were guaifenesin and terpene hydrate. In guaifenesin we have nausea, vomiting, gastric irritation. But so far as this is concerned, terpene hydrate, there's a gastric upset, and this elixir has high alcohol content. That's why terpene hydrate has alcoholic preparation. That is why there's a gastric upset. Continuous use. So these are the two differences, guaifenesin and terpene hydrate. Now nursing implications, what are there? Expectorants should be used with caution in the elderly or those with asthma or respiratory insufficiency. So these are the three, nursing implications which you are supposed to know. We can use it cautiously in elderly or those with asthma or respiratory insufficiency. Because if we use it, there is insufficiency and it aggravates, and with the result we need other modality of the treatment. Patients taking expectorants should receive more fluids. Why? If permitted, to help loosen and liquefy secretion. So we have to give the secretion, so that it should be in the hydrated form, this secretion, so that it can be expelled out. Report a fever, cough, or other symptoms lasting longer than a week. So it is a must. It is that you have not to wait for a longer period that you are taking antitussives or expectorant for a longer period. There is some other cause. So monitor for intended therapeutic use. This is very important. So thank you very much. I hope the next lecture will be bronchodilators, where there are so many drugs you have to take into consideration, and that is a big chapter, and you have to have that chapter separately. And I'm sure, and this is the basics of the coughing, how we cough, what is expectorant, what is antitussive. Thank you very much for listening, and any question you can say.